Well, welcome everybody to day 3 of our Health Innovation Pavilion. We're going to kick this off with our Innovation Showcase. I'm going to start with a brief presentation on our new Prevent Risk Calculator. So everybody's excited about this new calculator, and we're still working out many of the details of how to gain access. What we've already figured out, though, are the technical details of how to gain access to this. So first of all, we already have the risk calculator up on Professional Heart Daily. It's been up there for a while, making it easy for you in our new era of technology. Here's the QR code that'll take you directly there. We also have licensing agreements. There's an academic version, there's a commercial and non-commercial. So the academic version, there's no cost, but what you have to do is fill out the JOT form. The second QR code is for that, and that gets you access to a GitHub site, which will give you access to the calculator. We've also worked with our own business technology team. They've actually created an API-enabled version of exactly what's on Professional Heart Daily. And what's now very exciting is one of our innovator network companies, Porter Health, has created an API-enabled version of the calculator. And I'll show you, and we can show you off stage some examples of that. It looks exactly like what's on Professional Heart Daily. It gives you exactly the same numbers. But there's a significant difference in how it works. Instead of having to go to a website and key in numbers, with the API, obviously you're then able to build it into your solutions, which obviously is a much more robust technical way to do it. So this is what it looks like on Professional Heart Daily. This is really the translation from the Framingham Heart Study to the pooled equations, which we think of as our ASCVD risk calculator. So the Prevent is based on significantly more data points and a much more diverse population. So there's a few more fields, and what it gives you is 3 different risk scores: CVD, ASCVD, and heart failure risk. And you get 10-year and 30-year risk. Once you gain access to GitHub, and this is really designed for researchers. So on the JOT form, you need an EDU email to gain access to it. Once you gain access, you get access to the GitHub site. And if you're not familiar with how GitHub works, it's an open access. It's a way to access software solutions. Just showing here a screenshot. You get to the AHA Prevent. You download that onto your system. And once you do there, you can go into the AHA Prevent packages. You can access it through Strata or through R. And literally, this is the easy way to do the calculation. Maybe the second easiest way beyond the, you just using the website. Again, just showing you an example. This is from my R Studio platform. So what you have to do is you have to, download Prevent, and then you have to add the AHA Prevent library to your R Studio. Once you do that, you have the keys to the kingdom. You can then, if you have your data, you put it into this format, and you get all these lovely calculations. So that's the back end. That's the geeky stats side of it. What I'm proud to show you now is on the front end. And this is the version through Porter Health. As you can see, it looks just like Professional Heart Daily. Same type of screens, same type of data. It gives you exactly the same type of results. Much more robust back end as far as the analytics, the dashboarding, and importantly for many of you, the EHR integration capabilities. Again, a little for you coders and technical folks, you can access it through Swagger. So if you know how Swagger works, this is how the back end that works into your system. And here's again a real quick example using Postman for the version that's on that was created on Professional Heart Daily. So this again just the back end. So you get your access token, you put your data in, and it gives you your results. And then of course, it gives you the ability then to put it into your solutions. I'm really representing our Center for Health Technology and Innovation. I'm standing on the shoulders of our science advisors, our volunteers, the innovator network companies that are using Prevent and other tools. We do have, again, a little index card here, again with the QR code, more information on Prevent. And to keep us on time, what we'll do is we'll then take questions off stage. We can either through me or through the Porter Health team, we can actually even show you a demo of how it works. I even have it working on my phone. I won't show you because you can't see it anyway, but you'll get the idea. But happy to show and share how all of that works. So thank you very much. I want to keep us on time and actually give the next two presenters a little bit more time to do their very cool stuff. So thank you very much.
All right. Thanks, Pat. My name is Felix. I'm one of the co-founders and the CEO of Medudi. We are a medical ad tech company, medical education technology company based in Germany. At Medudi, we've built a video-based microlearning platform, simplifying and accelerating the way doctors all around the globe are learning and accessing the latest medical information in their native language, ultimately empowering them to improve patient outcomes. But we're so much more than just an education platform. We're an AI-powered content engine, scaling and accelerating the way we produce educational content for the healthcare space. Now, let us take a quick look at the modern challenges we're facing in medical education. So first, information overload. There's a massive growth of new medical information and knowledge, making it really hard for healthcare professionals to keep up. Not just on the learner side, but also on the content provider side. Second, barriers to global accessibility. And if we talk about barriers, we specifically talk about language barriers, limiting the reach of critical medical advancements to healthcare professionals all around the globe in their native language. And last but not least, we are facing changing information habits in our modern society, meaning that traditional educational formats such as 60 to 90-minute long webinars or clickable interactive tools are very much impracticable for today's fast-paced world with platforms such as TikTok, Instagram, or YouTube. And this is exactly where Medudi comes into play. We try to tackle those challenges head on. First, we leverage artificial intelligence and synthetic media to automate and simplify the content creation process in the educational space for medical professionals. Secondly, we integrate multilingual AI avatars of leading experts serving as digital educators, digital tutors within our content. We will showcase you in just a second how those actually look like. And last, we focus on video-based microlearning, meaning that we communicate complex medical topics in short, concise video formats that are very bite-sized and time-saving to consume. Now, if we take a look at the advantages of a solution, we basically eliminate the traditional video production in front of a camera, and we shift to a fully digital production process, accelerating and automating the content creation process. We can overcome language barriers and provide educational content in up to 60 different languages, and we also provide updatable content, meaning we can easily update existing content at a later stage, making sure that our content on our platform is always equipped with the latest medical information. And last but not least, we provide engagement. Our content is designed to maximize knowledge retention and make it very, very easy to integrate lifelong learning into an everyday life of a doctor in his daily routines. So as I mentioned before, we will showcase you just a second how this actually looks like. The video we will show you is an AI avatar provided by MedUD, and I think this will give you a pretty good overview of what our content looks like.
Hello, and welcome to the 2024 Scientific Sessions in Chicago. Today, I'm addressing you as an AI-powered avatar, enabling global accessibility to medical knowledge. This promising technology allows us to reach healthcare professionals and patients around the world using multiple languages. By collaborating with MedUD, we use innovative solutions to share research discoveries, guidelines, and best practices in a dynamic, cost-effective, and efficient manner. Take our recent publication on the use of artificial intelligence in improving outcomes in heart disease. As you all know, we're currently in the midst of a healthcare transformation. Artificial intelligence has begun to enter all areas of life and may finally help us make progress toward long-aspired goals in precision medicine. This transformation is both vast and specific, affecting all areas of cardiovascular and stroke research, prevention, as well as individual and population-centered care. On the one hand, AI's potential use cases, ranging from cardiac imaging to electrocardiology and many more, are practically endless, making this topic extremely exciting. On the other hand, each new use case brings a multitude of unique challenges, making this topic extremely complex. This means that to make this transformation work effectively and safely, we need to learn and exchange more knowledge than we ever have before. Here you see an example of a novel approach to medical education. AI-narrated educational tools can make complex concepts more accessible and engaging, helping bridge gaps in medical knowledge across borders. Un enfoque que supera con éxito las barreras lingüísticas. Une approche qui permet d'intégrer rapidement les mises à jour des connaissances. 通过这种方法，我们以最佳的教育方式在全球传播知识。So thank you for your attention, and stay tuned for what's about to come.
All right. Yeah, we're now actively looking for new partners to join our AI-powered initiative, Medical Education, making medical information more accessible to healthcare professionals all around the globe. Contact us, go to our website, add me on LinkedIn, and thank you very much.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you for this opportunity to present RCE. We're ahead of schedule, but we'll get started here. So I'm Atandra Berman, founder and CEO of RCE. We're an AI medtech company that looks at early stages of heart attacks. And from this small aperture where I was 7 years ago, I lost my dad to a heart attack. And this happens to a lot of people around the world. So if you just broaden this aperture and look at the world, you'd see disease, coronary disease spreaded across 315 million people annually around the world. And 18 million precious lives die every year. And believe it or not, 1 out of 5 patients are silent heart attacks, which means they don't even feel chest pain. And my dad was one of those. So we came up with a technology that could be non-invasive, that could detect early stages of heart attacks even before people can feel chest pain or not. Now, if we look a little bit more closely to where we are in the United States, we have over 10 million patients every year showing up to emergency departments around the country. And these patients wait for 3 to 4 hours to just get a diagnosis if they have a heart attack or not. Now the optics is not quite straight. It takes hours to diagnose a heart attack, and they go through a series of steps looking at various parameters like EKG, troponins. They even go to the angiography in the later stages. But this takes a lot of time, and a good significant part of these patients, almost close to 60% are non-cardiac, and 40% are considered almost low risk that qualify for early discharge. Now, what if we could have a point of care technology, a non-invasive, easy solution that did not require a phlebotomist, that did not require blood draws? That process can be accelerated in these patients. And these are low-risk patients who don't have a high reimbursement. So economically, this is very viable for the hospital to adopt the technology. So let's show you what we are working on. For the last 6 years, we've been working on a groundbreaking novel wrist-worn technology that uses infrared optics. We use a very unique patented concept that involves the photonic exchange between infrared light through the skin, and we're able to look at various different cardiac injury biomarkers. Some of those are troponin, pentraxin, hard-type fatty acid binding protein. And the way this works is once you're ready to place this next to a patient, you guide the patient's wrist onto the sensor surface and secure the wristband onto the patient. You leave the device on the patient for 3 minutes. During these 3 minutes, we are collecting an infrared spectral scan through the skin continuously, and we're able to extract an assessment and give an output of whether this patient has acute coronary syndrome or not in 3 minutes. The result is displayed on the screen, which is actionable not only to someone in triage, but upstream in pre-hospital cases like an ambulance where every second counts. So in all, we feel this is a very simple solution. It's very easy to adopt, train, and apply. It's non-invasive, so it takes away a lot of headaches and a lot of cumbersome steps that are involved with blood draws and other tests and techniques. And most importantly, this really casts the future of medicine with respect to continuous monitoring. And we are super excited to show you more about this. Now, past the early translational research where we characterize these biomarkers, we went ahead and tested this in 238 patients across 5 hospitals. And this data was presented at the ACC late-breaking clinical trials last year in New Orleans. And what we showed was an area under the curve of 0.92, a very good discrimination between elevated troponin and non-elevated troponin in suspected myocardial infarction patients. We also showed very good phenotypic association with severity of stenosis in the coronary vessels as well as regional wall motion abnormalities. Now, after that, we went to the FDA last year and we asked them, how can we bring this to patients? And the 2 things they asked us to do was to define a reference range for our sensor and go ahead and do a prospective validation in all-comer chest pain patients in the ED. We then went and did a 840 patient study at 10 US hospitals where we collected a very demographically spread population of patients. So this had 50% male, 50% female. We had equal representation from various age groups as well as different demographics in terms of ethnicity. To have a very well-represented U.S. population. We also collected elevated troponin patients for reasons, whatever they might be from a disease perspective, so they could have a heart attack, they could be myocarditis, pulmonary embolism, sepsis, whatnot. And what we demonstrated, again, was a very good discrimination area under the curve to show discriminatory power with respect to cardiac troponin, a biomarker used for diagnosing myocardial infarction. From there, we've this year completed a 500-patient study across 9 hospitals. This is in, again, all-comer patients coming at these 9 primary healthcare facilities, and a very strong area under the curve to, again, show that this can be validated in patients to discriminate acute coronary syndrome or not. Now, in the last few months, we have been able to take this data and take it forward into externally validating it in emergency departments. And this data is now currently being submitted for some manuscripts, and we expect to show that pretty soon. Now, what does all this mean? This really means that we now have a device that can do a 3-minute measurement, and you can place that anywhere where you have a suspicion of acute coronary syndrome. So that could be an emergency department triage, that could be the waiting room, that could even be pre-hospital, upstream, all those places where the foot traffic of patients with chest pain come into the emergency department. So imagine your ambulance, your urgent care, all your outpatient facilities, and as you're seeing some moves and steps happening with pharmacies and point-of-care clinics. Now, our focus will be to really deliver this initial launch in the emergency department, and with that respect, we have been very focused, working with the FDA and potential, pathways in commercialization. So, in summary, I would like to say that we have had a chance now in 6 years, to really advance this technology from a research and development phase to a more commercial stage of the company. We've raised about $5 million on Safe Notes since we started the company in 2018. We did file 10 patents, 5 of them are issued, and we've completed the early validation in 1,500 patients or more. And right now, we're currently raising capital, still moving forward, and we have secured 2 partnerships with global strategic partners and distributors. Both of them are hyper-focused with us towards delivering an initial launch in a few hundred hospitals in India, and additionally, research into additional biomarkers with the same patented technology. Now, I do want to leave you with this. When we talk about other biomarkers, and again, broadening the aperture from just acute coronary syndrome and heart attack, which is our focus, is that this can really help people. And this happens. These are real patients who go through procedures. Many times they have reinfarctions or repeat heart attacks after they're treated. And we've done some preclinical and clinical cath lab studies to demonstrate continuous monitoring when our sensor is placed on the wrist of a patient going through procedure and post-procedure in a PACU and eventually into the home. So you can imagine the power of this technology. We also started working with some pharmaceutical companies on phase 0 potential collaborations towards certain drugs that might have cardiotoxic effects. You can imagine immune checkpoint inhibitors that have, albeit a small incidence of myocarditis, but a very high mortality, 25 to 50%, and the FDA is concerned. And now we can use our technology to look at early stages of myocarditis and enable the FDA and the pharmaceutical companies in developing safer, better drugs. We believe there is quite an application of this technology in heart transplant and chronic care management and monitoring in nursing homes. And then finally, we imagine as we're doing this, we're collecting a lot of data, and this data is very important. It's a foundational model that can be of immense value to payers, to the FDA, to regulatory boards, and various health organizations that can really help advance medicine. Another day, I will tell you more about this and be happy to take more questions around where this is going. But for now, I'm really appreciative for everyone listening to this. And this would not be possible without everyone's support. That means doctors, patients, nurses, and everyone here at the AHA. But we do believe this path will lead us to a vision, which would be eventually, hopefully, a day where there is fewer heart attacks. Again, Atandra Burman, thank you for the opportunity, and I'll be happy to meet offline.